It's a tropical trademark, lush green vegetation. A perfect intermingling of fruit trees, plants, and weeds that create a picturesque, homogeneous backdrop to life. This seemingly evergreen makeup of many Caribbean islands is the main reason why tropical climates are such an attractive vacation destination. But for some, these plant species do more than just decorate the landscape. In fact, many of the fruits, plants, and weeds that are often taken for granted are part of Mother Nature's medicine cabinet. Take this plant for instance. This is the pomegranate. Now, most people know it for its fruit, but what a lot of people don't know is that it has another purpose.
That's right, Janeisha.
Oh, Mr. Sewer.
Hey, how are you?
Now, this is Mr. Larry Sewer. He is known here on St. Thomas as a local herbalist.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what other things this plant can be used for.
Well, I call it a multi-purpose plant.
Okay.
I use the flower to make my tea with.
Oh, okay.
The leaves are used for diabetes and blood sugar control. It's an insulin type producing plant.
Okay.
And many people know of the pomegranate juice.
As myself.
But many people don't know what part of the plant that is used and how it's used.
So what part of the plant is used?
The skin in particular is the part of the plant that you use.
Okay.
But I love to make my tea with it because it comes natural. A lot of people don't know an additive to making that drink. They use the grape juice.
Oh.
That's where you see that dark color. And in Afghanistan, for example, they have a different species. It has a deep red skin. So you may not have, if you use that particular species, you may not have to use the grape juice. But I use the skin for making my tea. And then I dry it out and I grate it as well. But the bark of many of our plants are also good too because if you can use the leaf, if you can use the skin of the plant, you must be able to use the bark also.
And a lot of people probably don't know that.
So, that's why the herbal practitioner is an ideal person to have.
Herbal practitioners and herbalists are people who study the use of medicinal properties of plants. In the case of herbal practitioners, they are skilled in the harvesting and collection of medicinal plants and in the therapeutic use of such plants. The use of herbs to treat disease is almost universal among non-industrialized societies. The practice predates written human history. As for Mr. Sewer, it is something he's been doing for practically his entire life. Mr. Sewer, you obviously know a lot about plants. Tell us a little bit about what got you into this. How did you get into learning about plants and being an herbalist?
Well, it started when I was 3 years old. That's what I wanted to do.
Okay.
And my mother, knowing what I wanted to do, that was my task. Whatever ailed the family, it was my task. After she showed me what the plant was, my job was to go and get it. If it was making mabi, my task was to go and get the mabi seasoning from the anise, sweet marjoram, mabi bark, rosemary, the ginger. If it had to do with making the guava berry rum, my task was to be not only the taster, but the one who would put all the ingredients together. And I still do it up to now. My mother, she's the one that makes the syrup, and I do the blending. So it started from there. They say never ask for something because you're going to get it. When I went into the Air Force, that's the field of work I was in.
Okay.
The whole environmental series, from water quality, wastewater treatment, processing, chemistry, biology.
So pretty much you are right where you belong.
So what I asked him for, he set me there.
That's great.
And eventually it became my function in military. I got out. I said, if I can help somebody, I can help myself, help my people, and that's what I'm doing.
So this, what we're looking at, is your laboratory?
Yes, some people call it the yard. My laboratory, in that I observe the plant and see its function, and I go into my books, and now I have computer. I research, and I come up with the same information, and I take the plant and I test it.
Now, what plant is this that you're
this,
testing?
We call it Congo root, but it's actually of the ginseng family.
Okay.
If you will check the root, you will see it's the same type of root structure that the ginseng plant will have.
Okay.
And
what is it, some of its purposes?
Okay, this in particular is good for varying things, but more so for people who have asthma.
Okay.
It's very useful for that. Would you like to taste a piece?
I
Yes.
would.
A rule of thumb, always take a small piece. This is about 1/1,000,000th of an inch of the entire plant. You're going to see it has more or less like almost salty type taste. Okay? So you have protected your system.
So just by doing that.
Some people think you have to boil water and steep. No, no, no. Just take the plant and have a taste of it. See, all plants have energies. You can tell where the energy of the plant goes. This goes in 3 areas: the head, the midsection, and the lower section. So you know your body has a way now of being protected. Because like I say again, all plants have energies.
Officially known as Petiveria Olasea, Congo root is a flowering plant species of the pokeweed family. Native to many parts of South America, Mexico, Central America, Florida, and the Caribbean, this deeply rooted perennial shrub is known for its strong garlic-like smell. Its medicinal properties are well documented throughout South America. Many cultures have used the plant's flowers, leaves, and roots to treat many ailments ranging from intestinal gas to skin conditions. In Guatemala, some tribes use its crushed roots as an inhalant for sinus problems. Today, the plant is being researched for its use in fighting both cancer and leukemia, as well as immune disorders. It's important for us to note that Mr. Suar is a very knowledgeable herbalist who has been studying plants for years. So we do not suggest to anyone to begin tasting and testing or self-medicating themselves with plants. Now, just a few feet away from the Congo root, Mr. Suar points out a familiar weed that's actually edible.
Oh, by the way, let me show you 2 important plants.
Okay.
This is the dandelion.
It's a pretty flower.
Yes, it's also edible.
There are 2 species of the dandelion weed found worldwide. Both are edible in their entirety. They are found on all continents and have been gathered since prehistory for consumption, mainly in Eurasia. In some places, the flower petals, along with other ingredients, are used to make dandelion wine. Medicinally, it's been used as a diuretic and to treat infections.
If you notice, if the bees can eat it or take pollens from it, you can do it too.
Oh yeah? Okay. Let me try it too.
Try it.
So what do you eat? Just the okay.
I use the flower, and at the same time, I make tea with the leaves. My rule of thumb or finger, 3 inches, right?
Okay.
This much is enough for making tea.
Okay.
Usually people use a whole lot of the ingredients and they overdose themselves without realizing it. So a rule of thumb is always use your finger.
As a measurement.
Okay, and 4 inches in most cases, because each one of them is an inch, right? So you have 4 fingers, so you have 4 inches.
Well, my fingers are pretty tiny.
No, man,
matter.
an inch is an inch.
Okay. You're right.
And there's another in particular for
Okay.
male. And I only know this plant in Spanish. I know it has golondrina.
Golondrina?
This is good for the prostate.
Golondrina is officially known as Alternanthera flavogricia. It is native to the West Indies and certain parts of South America. The name golondrina is said to come from Belize. Now, could you tell us about some of the other plants that you use for medicinal purposes?
Yes. You remember you talk about the creams. Here's a particular plant. We know it as bata bata.
Bata bata. Throughout the Caribbean, bata bata is eaten as a vegetable, used mainly in the traditional callaloo soup. In other parts of the world, such as Africa, Indochina, and the Philippines, this plant is used as a spinach substitute.
This in particular, this was the first plant that I learned to use as a child.
Bata bata.
Because my grandfather used to catch crab. And the way to purge the crab was to feed it bata bata, okay, to get all the toxin out. You know, the liver is the agent that takes the toxin out of the body. So the bata bata detoxifies the liver. So the bottom line is that in every yard within the territory, there are plants that are herbs that can be used for medicinal purposes. And I intentionally left this like this because I know you were coming and I want for the people to see that.
Right in your own backyard.
In your own backyard, you have a pharmacy. You know what they're calling it now? They call it biopharmaceutical. meaning that you're using the actual plant to have remedies and cause an effect to the human system, and that's what I'm doing.
Wow.
This is the persevere plant. Later on, you will see as to another form that is in a product that's named Joy for
Okay.
Jewel of the Isles.
Love the eyes. So what is it used for?
It's used for taking infection of the skin as such. Sometimes, you know, when you're in too moist of a location, bacteria tend to form, and it helps keep the skin clean.
In many Caribbean islands, this plant is used in baths or is made into an ointment for rashes and other skin inflammations.
I love this plant because I didn't know the name in St. Croix. They call it stock mahak.
Stock mahak?
We
I've
call
seen
it
these before.
jumbi peppers, little peppers that you can eat.
So you can eat, these are edible too?
Yes.
Okay.
And the thing about it, this plant helps the eyes, especially if you have cloudiness with the
Cataracts
eyes and
okay.
cataract as such. And that will be going into capsule. So that's why I call it my laboratory. I look at plants, I see, usually a way of identifying plants is by the flowers. So most of my books I have with the plants as once they're in bloom, and I can match them up adequately to see if I have the same plant, and then I use them.
The research about how long have you, I mean, it's something you've been doing for a while.
Oh, yes.
But how extensive does your research go?
Oh man, it goes, let me put it in hours. Sometime I will be to my computer from 6 in the evening till 6 in the morning.
Wow, 12-hour shifts. You gotta find
Especially,
full-time
you
job.
know, starting a business is not easy. No disrespect to women and child rearing, but a business is similar to having a young one. You have to put
nurture
more
it,
time in
take
it. For
care of it.
example, long ago it was after 5 years, now it's far less. You know, your business is you. If you don't have that interest in it, then you cannot expect for a client to have the whole, what's the word?
To be as interested or to have the same respect for your
You see, that's where we join in now. My limitation is your continuation. We are a team.
We're a team today,
Yes.
that's great. Now what is this that we're looking at? It looks like noodles to me.
Yellow love.
Yellow love?
Yes.
Any other name that goes
What
by?
would you say? Look like noodles?
Like noodles.
When we were small, we call it spaghetti plant.
I see why.
You see? And
Okay. Now, what do you use the?
this has many
Yellow love
purposes. It's good for detoxing the liver.
Okay.
It's also used externally for taking infectious diseases off the skin. And what I personally do, I love to eat it.
This is edible, man. You can eat anything in your yard, in your lab.
There you go. Also, for example, it look like cheese, right?
Yeah, it looks
When
like
when I don't have cheese, I come out, cut it up, and put it in my eggs, right? Yeah, multi-purpose, man. So you love it, yeah.
Yeah.
It's good, and you see,
So now when I run out of cheese, I know where to come.
exactly.
I come for some cheese for my eggs.
And
is good. What
this
else we have?
plant,
seen a
the
lot of
name is
these.
carota.
Okay.
Some people call it guana tail.
Guana
But
tail.
I've been fortunate to be in the military. I spent most of my time overseas. As a result, my learning continued just by going there. And I've been home now 41 years. I've been using this plant as a means of waxing my car. I don't put wax in my car.
Is this? So how do you do
I
that?
rub
You
it
just
up in the
rub it?
water, and the green solution comes off, and I wash my car. And when it's rain, it comes like acrylic.
Wow.
So you see, there's
And you see these all the time.
Yes.
Everywhere. And people, I'm
but
sure
you
people
see,
don't know that.
that's why there's a word they call alchemist, right? Where you use things that people don't normally want to use or don't know how to use, and you bring a final product from it. And that's how evolution takes place, where people learn new things. And here's a plant that I use. This
beautiful.
plant is name is Kitimakwani. I found a way to use it. I put it in powder, and I put it on my toothpaste, and it works as scrubbing bubbles.
Wow.
Now, it's important to note that this plant has been examined by the National Cancer Institute as a possible source of chemotherapeutic drugs. It's also been flagged for its toxin resin and heart stimulant, which can be poisonous.
Now, when you say find a way to use it, you like go around seeing plants that maybe you've never seen and like just like you said, research and find out maybe something.
And I
different.
experiment with them. I use them, and the result that I get.
You pass it on.
With his extensive knowledge of plants and herbs, it should be no surprise that Mr. Sewer's product line Joy, short for Jewel of the Isle, contains a large variety of supplements, creams, and ointments. There are natural painkillers, energy supplements, and even shampoos. But for me, what's even more impressive than the large product line is the process of actually making the products.
Okay, so Larry, I see you have here a mortar. Tell us a little bit about the procedure it takes to get, from the plant to the pills that we see in these bottles. Yeah.
What I do, I dehydrate the plant, get the moisture out.
Okay.
And from there, if you see any pharmaceutical advertising, you will always see the matter. So brief history, I never realized what it was for until I got into actually processing capsules.
Okay.
The matter is very important in that you take the raw material and you want it to get to a powder form. Now, there are different ways of getting the granules from the powder. And I use a process being into construction. For example, you never mix cement and sand and gravel unless you sieve the sand.
Yeah, you gotta sift the sand first.
So I sieve the raw material to get a fine particle because I don't want any obstruction in the person's throat after the capsules dissolve. I want it to be, the particulate or the particles be as fine as possible so that when it's met with the water or any moisture inside the system, it dissolves very fast.
So I see we have some more products that you just don't have to take as pills. What are some of the things we're looking at here?
Okay, this is the herbal shampoo and conditioner.
Shampoo, that's my kind of stuff now.
Yes. It's made from, as a matter of fact, I make most of the oils. I make the neem oil, the castor bean oil. The coconut oil is made by my sister-in-law in St. John.
Okay.
So I process these 3 oils within a natural herbal base.
And it says here, revitalizes as it moisturizes your hair and scalp.
Yes.
Experience a glow as you've never seen.
Yeah, exactly.
And it does not burn your eyes. That's good.
Yes. Even a little kid, if you will, without supervision, once you do the hair or wash the hair, it wouldn't affect the eyes with any burns as such. That's why I enjoy this, because anyone can use it.
That's great. Okay, so what is this we have here?
That's bonkonko.
Bonkonko.
Yes, a bonkonko is a swelling. I just learned that in St. Croix there's another name for it.
Oh, what's that?
Okay. Some people in St. Croix call it cocoa.
Cocoa. That's what I thought it was.
We say bonkonko.
It says here that it relieves what? Lumps, bumps,
Swelling, yes.
Okay.
That's a special formula because it's made of plants that we know, the castor bean plant. Okay. And my secret weapon was a plant that you call noni. For the past 18 years, that was a secret weapon until it was revealed about 6 years ago.
Okay.
As a universal plant.
So the bonkonko, the name, tell me a little bit about the name.
Okay, bonkonko, I recently found out 5 years ago to be exact. I didn't, first of all, back up. My products have names that are locally designed.
Okay.
But I also take it the next step further because, for example, bonkonko, someplace in the world, somebody had to use that word. And it so happened that a situation took place where a nurse had approached my mom, who had the same bonkonko, and she said the word perfectly. And my mother said, yes, we have Congolese word in our language. And she said she's from the Congo, and they say the same word.
Okay.
Take, for example, we say the word gongolo.
Gongolo.
Gongolo lives in Casa Tree, right?
Yeah.
My buddy from Ghana, they use the same word, gongolo. Okay. So in naming my products the way I do, I am able to connect and relate to other places.
You learn a little bit about history and culture.
Exactly.
With the names.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
From raw materials to finished products, today's experience was quite enlightening. It's amazing to learn of how much Mother Nature provides us with natural remedies for ailments, and how many of these cures and treatments are found in such common places. Now our day of rediscovery isn't quite over. From this lovely site, we travel 4.5 miles west to Estate Perseverance. The earliest records of this estate date back to 1811. At the time, it was called Milner Shop, and this estate was one of the few that were developed for agriculture.
Okay, Olasee, we've been walking for a little while now.
At least a half a mile.
Yeah, and this is is this Estate Perseverance, right?
Yeah.
What are we leading to? Where are we going?
We leading down to the bayside, down to Flamingo Pond.
Okay.
This is a secondary forest up in the 1950s and 60s. This was used, you can tell from the trees. Most of the trees here is very small.
Yeah.
So this is a secondary forest. It's a mice forest, or what we call a glass tree forest.
Okay.
Within the watershed basin.
Okay, and what at the end of the trip, what should we be expecting to
We
see?
hiking toward the ruins in here.
Okay.
And then from there we hiking down to the pond.
Okay, well, I'm excited. Let's keep walking then.
Let's go.
All right. Wow. So we made it to the ruins, Olasee.
Yeah, finally.
It looks really, really, really interesting. What was this building before?
This is part of the plantation for Preservation Bay.
Okay.
In 1733, most of the plantation and St. Thomas at that particular time was cotton.
Okay.
In 1722, the same year when St. Christ was purchased by Denmark from the French.
Okay.
And then later on, this plantation here was sugar, and you can see some of the boilers. You can see the rings of the boilers in the area along the side. And this is way down in the valley. The sugar mill is much far up on top of the hill on the other side. In St. Thomas, there were about 8 quarters. Like in St. Christ, we have 9 quarters, like King Street, Prince Street. But over here, they have their own quarters too as well. And this side, this quarter here, is called the South Side Quarter.
The south side quarter?
Yeah. Yeah, right behind of us, inside, there's a dungeon. We part of
Okay.
keep the slavery.
Olasee, you're right. It is pretty dark in there.
Yeah, it's quite dark. Now this area is probably around the 1800s, where this plantation. I noticed you're seeing some bricks, the red bricks, you're seeing yellow, and of course they came on a ship, it was brought on a ship. But the same kind of development like St. Christ and St. John throughout the Caribbean, where they use the molasses, lime, and water that would inferior matter. Like for example, this we see right here, this is the original matter that in the structure. This stone here, volcanic stone, or we call it sedimentary stone. And so this is part they keep the enslaved African, and it could be there for a couple of weeks, could be there for a month. And you see there's no air. There's one particular door, and it can do everything in there, otherwise defecate and everything can do in there.
Wow.
People
you
don't
know
really,
how many people they would hold in there at a
it could
time?
be 5, 6, 7. People don't really understand the impact, especially
That's
not
serious.
only physically, but also mentally, of enslaved African in this part of the world. So
There's no ventilation.
there's no kind of
it's just-
ventilation you find inside in here.
Wow.
See, there's
That's
one
extreme
in the
conditions.
area that they keep. See, it's the old road now standing. You can see the wall is extremely thick.
Okay.
Very, very thick wall. And
So
basically,
impossible for them to escape out of
basically
it.
you just imagine that the door was probably very thick too as well. And once you lost that, you're basically in darkness, and that probably could have an impact on your eyes because you're not seeing in the light.
Your eyes, your
And
breathing,
your breathing.
everything.
So
Wow.
A few yards from the ruins of this rum factory, we come across what is locally known as Flamingo Ponds. These salt ponds are known as resting and nesting areas for several bird species, to include the locally endangered bridled quail dove. The ponds are located along Perseverance Bay and contain all 4 types of mangroves, which support a high diversity of wildlife. In a 2006 report by the Department of Planning and Natural Resources, Perseverance Bay was described as the last remaining pristine ecosystem on St. Thomas. It's been a great day of rediscovery, but unfortunately, we've run out of time. Thanks to Mr. Olasee Davis, and thanks to Mr. Sewer for allowing us into his laboratory and introducing us to the world of herbalism. I hope you enjoyed the experience as much as I did. So until next time, cherish your home, this beautiful island, and most of all, cherish each other.